everybody. It's Safi and Marco, dish out on the movies. And we are doing another Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie that was produced in 2003 by Michael Bay. Is that correct, Marco?
Yeah.
And we are doing this in anticipation of the brand new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, which will be coming out soon.
What's that one called, Safi?
I don't know.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So now there's 3 movies that are called Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
And how do they do that? How can that be legal? But anyway, I guess it is, because that's what they're doing. So anyway, we have, I guess it's kind of like a remake of the first one, which was made in the 1970s. And this was made in 2003. And we have, I don't know the name of the star, but he plays the sheriff. And he has been in Full Metal Jacket. And was he in the original Texas movie, Marco?
Safi,
No. But he has been in, he is a very, he's a character. He always plays some kind of like crude, he swears, he's mean, but he laughs about it when he's mean. And I don't know what his name is. He passed away, but very famous chainsaw. Very famous
He's
character
a famous
actor.
chainsaw actor?
Yeah, he's a famous chainsaw. He is now. And he, I think he's the only one I recognize from the movie.
Well,
I don't think I recognize anybody else.
Give your thoughts on the movie.
My thoughts on the movie are, well, I'm kind of already expecting all this, but it was actually pretty good, well put together. I suppose we have, the kids. They're out. They're driving somewhere. I'm not sure where. They've been in Mexico. I know that because they have a lot of pot.
Safi, you weren't paying attention.
And a piñata.
They said they're going to a Leonard Skinner concert.
Oh.
They said that in the movie.
I didn't hear that at all.
Oh, no.
So anyway, I'm watching this in the day, and it's, I don't know, for some reason it's hard to see. Anyway, we've got the chainsaw guy, and he looks like the way he should. He's not little. He's not
What chainsaw guy? What are you talking about?
The guy running around with the chainsaw.
What's his name, though?
I don't know.
Really?
No.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know.
Are you sure?
Why don't you go ahead and say what his name is?
What's his name, Safi?
He kills, he tortures, he mangles, he hangs people on hooks. He's the chainsaw.
But what's he called?
Loving
What's
guy.
he called, though? What's he called?
He's called the Texas Chainsaw
No, but
Murderer.
what's he called, though?
I don't know.
'Cause that's not what he's called.
I don't know. I never actually hear his name.
Really?
Except if they say, well, so-and-so was arrested, or so-and-so was found dead, or whatever the news says at the very beginning.
What do they call him, though? What do they call him?
I don't know.
But what do they... Look, what do they, like, they say, there's that character, like, you have Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, and then you have blank. What do they call him,
I don't
Safi?
know.
Really?
Is it Joseph, or... I don't know. Why don't you just go ahead? And
well, I wanted you to give your thoughts on the movie.
Well, my thoughts on the movie, I thought it was pretty good. It's just that we've seen now several of these, and they all have similar problems. They all have similar problems, but they all have similar elements, but some are better than others. You can't say that they're all bad, because that is not true.
No.
There was some scary parts. It's just, it doesn't scare me that much because I am expecting something like that to happen. so whatever is happening at the time, and somebody else who'd never seen the movie or had been a long time since they'd seen a movie like that, they might be more afraid because you have things that, like, for example, we were talking about this. They have like two couples and a guy with glasses, and they're all like the same age, and there's like a strong couple, and they're driving the van, and then everybody else is a passenger. And so right off the bat, we have the strong people. They go and get help because they picked up this girl, and I'm not going to say what happens unless Marco wanted to say, but something bad happens and they want help for her. And so they stop, and who gets out and wants to get the help? It's the strong couple. So you could just tell they're like the leaders, the strong people. But anyway, but unfortunately, as a surprise, even to me, the strong people get in trouble right off the bat. And I won't say what the trouble is, but it's that kind of, because Marco might not want me to say, but
I don't know. It's always tricky of like what movie is okay to spoil and what isn't, because when we did those TV show reviews for Fargo, there were all these people and they said, "Who cares if you spoil it? Who cares?"
Well, we just feel guilty. I guess we just have guilty consciences because we want people. If you haven't seen a movie before, we don't want to give it away because then it won't be good. It won't be as good for you.
And it's better for you to just watch the movie and then come back and listen to our review.
Right.
Because a lot of the times, reviews will color your opinions of a film.
And that's not right. That's like, that would be like somebody doing an investigation and they saying, so you saw the knife sticking out of the back, so you're feeding them information. You wouldn't do that. You want to elicit information. And how can you have an accurate representation of the movie or what happens in the movie if we tell you? You have to experience it, firsthand. So that's what we want for you. We don't want to give you what's there. We want you to get it yourself because it makes more sense that way.
Yeah.
That's what I would want. That's why I don't really watch trailers.
Well, the trailer for this movie, like I would say the trailer for this movie is probably one of the best trailers ever made. And it doesn't give anything away, and there's only one shot of Leatherface at the end of the trailer.
Oh. Oh, that's pretty good. Because lately, I mean, this is an older movie, though. This is 2003. But some of the trailers that you see nowadays, they just give the whole movie away.
I know, they just show everything.
Or the whole last scene, or the whole, like, big pentacle scene where all the action comes together.
They'll literally show moments from the ending. Like with that spiral, they showed Chris Rock going, "No!" At the very end, the very end of the movie, they showed that in the trailer. And it's like, why did they... And it's funny because I saw this trailer editing video series, and they said that they are explicitly told not to show certain scenes from the trailer, but otherwise they can show whatever they want. And so the studios are so retarded that they actually let them show all of these scenes from the ending. Like, they shouldn't be able to show that at all. Like, so that the editors are given free reign to they have the whole movie. They watch the movies before we get to watch them. So that's what makes it even worse, is that they're showing the whole movie, basically.
Probably one thing you can do with these Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies is that you can think, well, let's take bets. Who is going to survive and who isn't? Or is anybody going to survive? Are they going to kill everybody? But the thing is, they have to have, somebody had to survive, because in the very beginning, they have a newscast. and they tell how many people might have died, or they might show the police. They're gathering evidence, or, you know, that's what they do at the very, very beginning. So how would they even know about it unless somebody had survived to tell them? So that's one thing that gives it away. Not who survived, but that somebody.
I would say it's
or
pretty
more than one somebody.
It's pretty easy to tell because once again, it's why I hate Final Girls, because in every single movie of this series so far, except for the third one, it has just been one woman to survive. The first one, it's just one woman. The second one, it's just one woman. The third one, that's the only one, that's the exception. In that one, a girl and a guy survive, remember? And then the fourth one, it's just a woman. And in this one, it's just a woman. So it's like, you know, you can tell. You can tell who's going to survive. And I don't like that, but that didn't ruin this movie for me because it was a good movie. Like, that's the thing, is that even if a movie has these problems, if it's good, then I won't care. And so now I'll talk about the film since Safi kind of gave up on that.
Well, I just don't want to say anything else because now you know. Well, never mind. I won't say anything else. But anyway, I enjoyed the movie. It's just that I just want to emphasize that some of the things in it, they're not. I mean, I expect them. I expect something to happen because when you hear the music or you hear that or whatever.
Well, the music is terrible.
Yeah, the music isn't. Well, in this case, yeah, the music is. Well, it's so light.
It's generic.
It's like just putting a little salt on a potato, and that was be it.
No, it is like just overly dramatic. Like the music in this movie and in a lot of 2000s movies, it reminds me of reality show music.
No, I don't know.
Like the like I don't know how to describe it, but in certain, like in Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura, you know, whenever he would find out some scary information, it would go in the background, like I can't even describe it, but it's like a I don't know, a noise, and I heard that noise in this movie, and I was like, why am I hearing that? It's a freaking horror movie. Create a horror score, and I think that is by far one of the biggest problems with these Texas Chainsaw movies, is that none of them have good music. None of them.
Yeah. Well, you're right about that, but anyway, when something looks like it's about to happen, I expect something to happen, and so I'm not surprised, or I'm not most of the time. Or I'm not really scared, but I think, like I said, if I hadn't seen one of these movies just recently, actually I've seen a few, then it would be more of a surprise and a shock to me than, and I would, and you know, that's what you do when you, if you're watching a movie. If that's what's going to happen, I think, with anybody. If you'd seen several of these movies, binge watched like we have, movie after movie after movie of the same series, you're not going to be surprised if something bad happens.
Well,
okay, you just don't know which bad is going to happen and which person the bad's going to happen to. So, go ahead.
Well, I don't know what happened there. I really liked the movie. I thought that it's kind of bad to watch it though, because you know the horror movies nowadays, they're terrible in comparison to this. They're not like this at all, and it just shows how much of a downgrade has happened, because in this movie, you know, you see all these things that they would never do nowadays, like you know, all the shots of the girl characters where, you know, it's like you know, you can't do that nowadays, because nowadays they have to cover up like they're Muslims or like it's the 1300s. And they don't even have any nudity in this movie. It's just they have certain shots that are funny looking, I guess you could say. And you know, you see other things like, you know, the violence, and there's all these things that it feels like nowadays you wouldn't have any of that. And so I think that's why this movie is really good, is because it's not the fact that it's special, it's the fact that this movie was made in a time when, you know, horror movies were good, and movies were good. And so they could actually do these things and make a good horror movie. Whereas nowadays, you know, what are we going to get? We're going to get this feminazi Halloween 2018 carbon copy Texas Chainsaw, where it's about a couple of senior citizens running around after each other on a golden Leatherface pond. And, you know, it just, nobody wants that. Like, there was this article that said Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022 is introducing Leatherface to a whole new generation of kids, or like, you know, young people. And it's like, no, it's not. Like, sorry, but nobody cares except for the true fans and people who are older. Like, you're not doing something interesting and new with this new one like you did with this one. And that's why this is really good, is because this remake, it actually did a really good job of making a modern Texas Chainsaw Massacre and making it to where you could see, I mean, tons of people, tons of teenagers, young adults, they saw this movie in 2003, and for good reason. Like, they saw the trailer, they saw the poster. It's you know, it looked really good. The trailer is really, really good. And so that's why this movie is good, is because it's actually a good remake that actually accomplishes what it's trying to do, introducing the series, reinvigorating it, giving it new life, because it was a dead series. I mean, part 4, Safi, nobody liked part 4 except for maybe a couple of weirdos, like the people in the movie. Nobody liked that. And so they had to bring new life into the series. And no matter if you think this film is good or bad, that's what this movie did. It made Leatherface popular again. It made the series popular again. And so it is a successful film. And it's really, really good, too. I would say that it subverts a lot of the cliches from the first one. In fact, it kind of explains a lot of a lot of the problems of the first one. Like, a lot of people, when they talked about the first one, they talked about how the girl, when she gets put on a hook, they talked about, well, why did she die? Like, they didn't show her get killed at all.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, she's on a hook. What happens next? We don't even know. She's still alive. Well, in this movie, they have a character who gets hung up on a meat hook, and he's still alive. And then he asks the main character to kill him. And so it's like, oh, that's good. See, they're following through on that. They're not just, like, leaving you hanging. And I would say that I love the look of the movie. I don't like the color filter. Safi, what do you think about the color?
That made it almost everything vanilla.
Ugh, the color.
I couldn't believe it. There was no contrast. I mean, this is Texas. I realize there's a lot of sand and desert, but there's also greenery. They grow pecan trees and other things in Texas. It's not all a desert or sand.
It's not all yellow and green.
Right.
Like this
and this
movie.
Is like, I don't know, the middle of summer.
Yeah.
So, because they're wearing clothes that would indicate that they're hot. And they needed to be cooled off, and all of them. And so there's no way that it would be so drained. I don't understand that. It's like, if you've ever taken a picture or even with the TV, you can fix the color, and you can make it light or you can make it really dark. And they have names like for instance, when you're selling and you're taking a picture, they have like, I don't know, 6 different things that you can set it on. Chrome,
That's
dark, anything. And it's like they have it on almost, it's almost washed out.
that's the unfortunate part about
Really
this
weird.
movie, is that there are a couple of typical early 2000s trademarks, and that's one of them. And so what I did was I turned the color up to 100 on the TV,
Yeah.
and it still kind of didn't help as much as I wanted it to. And another issue I have with this movie is the lack of violence. And because the kills in this movie are not very good. Like, one of them is good, when he surprisingly smashes the guy with the sledgehammer. That was pretty good. That was kind of scary. And that's the thing about this movie too, is that it did have a level of unease throughout the movie because of the environment and how isolated the area was and how everyone seemed to be a part of the family. And so I really liked that. But the kills were just really boring. Like, one of them, a couple of characters, they get killed with the chainsaw, but you don't even really get to see anything happen.
No.
And I have to wonder if that's the film. And I really don't know if the kills in this movie, they might be some of the worst kills of the series.
Oh.
Because they're just so, they're just so non-violent. Like, this is Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like, I don't care about, like, these idiots who say, like, less is more. Like, I don't want to see the death. I don't want to see anything. Like, F off. I want to see it. We just got done watching the Halloween series. There were a lot of great deaths in that. A lot of terrible ones, too. But in this series, like, it's called Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I want to see some blood and gore. I want to see some death on screen. I don't want to see this wimpy bitch stuff. Like, there's one part where she has to stab her friend to mercy kill him, and she shoves some blade through his stomach, and it's just so boring. Deaths in this movie. Like, I want to see. He kills people with his chainsaw. Leatherface does, and he's really, really brutal in this movie. But we don't really get to see it. Like, he goes up to this girl while she's on the ground, and he chainsaws her, and we see that, like, because she was wearing something, we see feathers flying around, but that's it. Like, that's literally it. We don't get anything else. Like, the original one was far more bloodier than this movie. So I'll say that. Probably the most violent death in this movie is the first one that happens with the hitchhiker girl. And that's, like, really weird. Like, that's the bloodiest death? Like, ugh. What do you think of that, Safi?
Yes, and that was, this is a spoiler, it was a suicide, and didn't actually have anything to do with Leatherface.
Yeah.
So, the Texas Chainsaw guy.
Don't you agree that the kills in this movie were like,
Well, I'm not interested in the violence.
But
I really don't. But I can see what you're saying.
It takes away.
They would show a person going down, and then they show the chainsaw guy, and he puts his and he he's got it going, and the person's screaming or yelling or whatever, and then he puts it down, and then he or she is really screaming. And then, but you don't see anything. You just see him put the saw, the action of that, and the person falling down because they've fallen, they've tripped, or whatever.
And that's it.
That's it. It's kind of like cut and cut out.
It's like kind of like cringeworthy, because this is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and it feels like, what is this, a kids movie?
And
Like, why is this rated R?
You can imagine the person on the ground just gets up and goes, "Oh wow, that was a great attack, Leatherface.
In fact,
Let's
probably
do it again."
some of the bloodiest stuff in the movie was when, at the end, she hacks off Leatherface's arm and blood is squirting out of his arm. Like, that was bloodier than some of the kills in the movie. And I have heard that before, though, this weird thing where people have said that for good characters, you shouldn't show them getting killed much. Then for bad characters, you should show them getting killed more, since you want to see them suffer more. But it feels covered up. It feels very censored. It feels cut down, and I just don't know if it's on purpose or it's accidental. And what else to talk about with this movie? Well, I just think in general, it's really, really good.
Yeah.
And I would say that the family is better than in the original movie. I like the family. There's a lot more family members, and there's all different types. They make sense. There's none of this BS where one of them quotes Shakespeare all the time, like in the fourth one. You know, they all make sense, right, Safi? Like they're all in reality.
When you bring that up, it still makes absolutely no sense to me at all.
The only one who was kind of weird was the little kid. That they had this little kid in the movie, and he was kind of there, but then he just went away.
He showed up at almost at the end.
For like 1 second.
Disgusted and upset. I don't know. I thought it was like an interbreeding.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Like, who's your mother, who's your father, who's your brother, etc.
Yeah. And that was cool because that's an aspect of horror. It made it creepier. And so, yeah, there was a lot of good stuff in the movie. The best part of the movie is Leatherface himself. This is the best Leatherface ever. The best acting of Leatherface. He's a lot scarier. He's bigger, too. He's the biggest Leatherface ever.
Yeah, he's a very big, hulking guy, and you expect that. I expect that. I don't expect some little shrimpy guy who the people he's chasing are bigger than he is.
Yeah,
and could take him in 2 seconds, even with the chainsaw in his hand.
The Leatherface in the first movie, he was not that scary. He was not that big. This Leatherface is scary. He is intimidating. You would not want to be tortured by him. And he has a really cool outfit. He looks kind of like a troll from a medieval, like a fairy tale, with the way, the mask is really cool. And then he gets a new mask, and so he looks really, really cool. And also another great part of the movie is, of course, the sheriff, Arlie Ermey. He's really, really good, and he was such a fantastic idea to add to the family. What was your favorite scene of the movie, Safi? Favorite scene?
Oh, I don't know.
Pick one. It can be a moment even, because there was that really cool moment where the old guy, he's in the wheelchair. He stomps he hits his cane on the ground,
which is kind of like a warning or an alert.
And then Leatherface just pops up right behind them with his chainsaw, and it's like, oh shit, that was really cool.
Yeah,
that was like a theme park ride type of a moment, like where he shows up, and that was really, really cool. What was your favorite scene?
I agree. I like that.
That wasn't my favorite scene, but I was just like giving an example. Like it could even be a moment like that.
Well, I guess my favorite scene is the one that surprised me the most, because like one of the strongest characters in the movie gets surprised all of a sudden. We don't even know we see somebody, they do this all the time. You know, we've been watching X-Files. I've seen in X-Files, somebody runs you can see it out of the corner of your eye. Somebody runs or moves very fast to another part because they're trying to sneak up on you. So you see this like vision of somebody running from place to place in the house while the strong girl helps the wheelchair guy off the floor. It looks like he's fallen, but I think he made himself do that so he could make her weak and try to overcome her, or Leatherface would overcome her, whatever. And so you see the strongest character get off first because you don't know Leatherface is there. And we're like, you know he's around, but it looks like at the very beginning they come to this house. It looks like the only person there is this old man. He's in a wheelchair. You don't hear anybody else. You don't see anybody else. So you think he's all alone. Well, he's not. Leatherface is there.
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about. He wraps his cane, the old man, onto the floor. And you could actually see, it looks like an area.
There's been indentations.
Yes, of him in that exact spot. At other times, alerting Leatherface somebody's in the house and come and get him. And so and then have the strongest character of the group.
He gets killed first.
He gets killed first. And it wasn't from the chainsaw. It was from being bashed over the head.
And that's another thing
with some kind of heavy hammer.
That's another thing that another point is that, speaking of improvements on the first movie, remember in the first movie it was really queer how the characters just wandered into the house without any permission or anything. In this movie, they get permission to go into the house, and only when they think someone is trapped in there do they break in. So I actually like that too, because in the original that was a big criticism people had. So you can see that they listened to people who watched the original, and they actually took feedback, and they said, how can we improve this, rather than like, how can we copy the original? Because that's what they do now. They just copy. And my favorite scene was actually with the sheriff, and I forgot all about it until I saw it. I really like the scene where the sheriff takes the glasses guy into the van, and then they're recreating that hitchhiker death. I really like that sequence, actually. That was my favorite scene. It was a really well done scene. It was suspenseful, and it was very intimate. There was just nothing but close-ups for the most part. And, of course, Arlie Ermy, his performance was a standout in the sequence. Yeah. So what would you rate it, Safi? What would you review this movie?
I would review it like, it's hard to say, but when I get a barbecue and then all of a sudden I come upon this hot, peppery stuff that people put on in the house, like Marco, for example, it makes me ill. I can't breathe. And it's an accident, like I've come upon it, even just doing the dishes.
Yeah, you're allergic now.
It's on the cookie sheet that it's been on the meat that was barbecued, and so the powdery stuff gets on the sheet, and I'm trying to clean it up. If there's any barbecue, like if we go out for barbecue and we get barbecue sauce, I'll be cleaning out the containers, and all of a sudden, nothing, I can eat the barbecue and everything, but all of a sudden I come upon this powdery stuff. I'm like, I can't breathe, and I'm struggling, I'm coughing.
You're equating this movie.
And it's all the surprises where, like he comes up behind the strongest character in the whole group, and then of course getting the glasses guy, those, coming upon him, and I don't want to say anybody, but when you have these surprise moments where it's going to happen, you just don't know when, and all of a sudden he pops out, he's got that chainsaw, and the chainsaw wasn't even going. He comes out, and then it comes on, And that's what it's like eating, and even just cleaning up barbecue dishware
Hey,
or
Safi,
cookware with that
essentially,
spice on it.
you're comparing this to when you're washing a dish and then you smell it and you're like, I
Well, you
mean,
don't need to
that's,
imitate. It's really awful. I can't hardly
well,
breathe.
it's just funny that, like, this movie, like, it's much better than that. Like, you're saying that this
Yeah, I
movie,
know, but I mean that's what it's just that it's food. It's a spice. It's supposed to improve the taste of the food, and it does not agree with me at all anymore. So, whenever I come upon it, it doesn't matter if it's at home or it's away. If I come upon the spice, it's not every spice. It's this peppery stuff. I don't know.
pepper.
Yeah, it may just be regular pepper and other pepper.
Like, you get upset when I put pepper on a steak and cook it because you'll go like,
Okay, Marco.
That's what you sound like.
Well, it's really bad. I can't breathe.
And so now you're saying whenever that's going to happen, you're going to be reminded of this movie, essentially.
Well, yeah, because it's a surprise, and you're just like, you're taken off guard, and you're kind of knocked for a loop. And you're knocked down, and that's like what the spice does on the barbecue spice. So go ahead. What's your food review?
Well, it's tough because I would say that there's so much stuff to like in this movie, but there's also a lot of flaws.
Well, yeah, the color, for example.
The color.
And the music.
Another problem is that there's no dinner scene.
Oh yeah.
Every Texas Chainsaw movie has a dinner scene.
Even the bad ones.
Yeah, even number 4, number
Right.
3. Or, well, number 3 is not bad. Number 2. Number 2 is number 2, and they have a dinner scene. But this movie is, I think it might be the only one where they don't have a dinner scene. Of course, we haven't seen 2 others yet. Well, 3 others, but I know one of them has a dinner scene. And so that's a big flaw of the movie. And it also struggles with the same issue that other ones have, is the pacing of the kills. I remember the first movie, the people get killed in like 2 seconds, and then the rest of the movie is just this one girl running and running and running and running, and like that's not good pacing. It's not good story structure. We just watched this Twilight movie where Edward, the main character, leaves for the whole movie, and so the whole movie is just her hanging out with this werewolf guy, and it's like, this is terrible pacing. Like, this just feels like a filler movie. And in this remake, the pacing is off with the characters dying. All of them are going to have that problem, I guess. I really don't like that, where you feel like, can we get some more victims, please? Can we get some more people to die? That's why I like the prequel, because in the prequel, a lot of people die. Even if they don't die, they get wounded and injured. Like the wheelchair guy, you get to find out how he gets in the wheelchair. So that's what makes the prequel better. I would rate the movie. There was one time where we went to Chicago, and we had this meal from a place, and you couldn't eat your meal. You ordered fried chicken, and you couldn't eat it, remember? You couldn't eat your fried chicken because you were sick. I think you ate a little, and you just could not eat it.
I could not eat anything. I was sicker than a dog.
What I got was, I got mac and cheese with chicken tenders on top. But not only chicken tenders, buffalo chicken tenders. They were spicy.
They like to layer their food.
Yeah, they had a spicy sauce, and so you have these chicken tenders, you have mac and cheese. That's what this movie is. It's really good. It's really comforting food type of movie, where it has issues, but you eat it anyway. That's what this movie was. So, Safi?
Okay, well, if you like this and you want to If you like this video and you want to say so, press the like button and please subscribe to our channel.
And
we welcome
comment.
and comment. We welcome all new subscribers. We like the discourse about the movies we watch. We hope that encourages you to watch the movies, or if you've seen them before, to offer your opinion and what you thought about certain elements that you may not have thought about when you watch the movie as compared to when we watch the movie. So everybody, stay tuned for more Texas Chainsaw coming up, and all the reviews that we do. Marco does South Park. We are still watching season 6 of the X-Files.
Twilight.
Oh, God. And we'll see you soon. Bye,
Bye,
everybody.
everybody.